Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Power Hour. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Power Hour, where we get together and we talk about current events from across the globe and right here in our great nation as well. Tonight, we have a lot of topics that we're going to discuss, and we're going to go ahead and jump in and start talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, within the United States, this was definitely the case that everyone was paying attention to. Everyone had formed an opinion about what was going on with Kyle Rittenhouse, and it seems as though the nation was divided. Now, the nation has been divided about a lot of things, nearly everything, for the past several years. And the Kyle Rittenhouse case was no different, with half of the country believing that Kyle Rittenhouse was acting in self-defense, while the other half of the nation believing that Kyle did murder those people and he should not have been there that night and should not have been in that situation. Now, the verdict came out and Kyle was found not guilty on all charges. Now, at the end of the day, me personally, I do think that he got off on certain charges off of technicalities. And I think if we had another judge, another prosecutor, that this could have went a different way. But let's go ahead and go to Wade first. Wade, what is your thought about the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict?
I think it is amazing. All right. And here's why. The courts have upheld the Americans' right to protect themselves against violent rioters, not protesters. You don't get to use that because they proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that they attacked first. Not only did they attack first, but you had felons with weapons. You had felons that traveled further than Kyle with weapons. And you have a whole different view of the media purposely spinning it to try and make him look like the enemy. Not only make him look like the enemy, but make the Mexican guy look like a white supremacist who shot 3 white guys, by the way. So I think this is just a win across the world right now because it has brought so many things to the forefront.
So I obviously wholeheartedly disagree with you, but we'll get to my opinion next. Sean, your thoughts?
There's two things to this case, right? There is the actual case, and then there's how the political process is playing the case. So I think there's two different arenas going on. The actual case is from my background in being in the military and being around those things, this is an 18-year-old kid that was very savvy, for some reason was very savvy about how to use a gun at 18 years old. He has no military background, has no military training. He's never even been in military, training in high school, like where he wanted to go into the military. So he really had some unique knowledge of firearms. And so that never really came out. Even when he was interviewed on Fox News or any of those things, I thought that was really fascinating. Now, the way he physically looks, he looks very innocent as a guy, like a very innocent young person. And I think on the political side of it, during what was going on in our country, if he were like not a very innocent looking, white, short man with a gun, if he were a black, young 17-year-old, I think completely different scenario would have occurred in this case. I don't know exactly what scenario would have occurred, but it would be completely different. Like he approached police with the gun and they didn't arrest him at all. Actually, he had to go to other places to get arrested. They actually told him to go home when he came up with them with a gun, police, right? And he said he shot somebody. And he said, even in the interview, he said, maybe they misunderstood me because I thought I would be taken into custody, but I wasn't taken into custody. And then he had to go to another area to get taken in, where he gave himself up, right? So through this whole process, it's interesting, but I think historically it hits a lot of nerves in the United States, historically, because if we look at civil rights area in the 1960s, when we had, dogs that attacked people, and we had in the South, we had, fire hosing down of people as they were walking to the South. And so these things are very sensitive in array, and that's why you have a divided country looking at it. One looking at it as a defense of arms, and one looking at it historically and related to civil rights. So that I think is two different views, and there are two different views historically. Now, the actual case the way it actually fell out, I think it probably fell that way because of the circumstances of the case. He should not have been out. He was doing this. If I were like in Texas or wherever and I'm protecting my home, right? And I have a gun and I'm protecting my home, it is a different scenario than I go around saying, I want to protect somebody else's property. So what he was doing, apparently out of the kindness of his heart, is going up and saying, other things had burned down in his neighborhood and he was going to be a vigilante. He was going to be a person that was going to protect other people's property. Though he wasn't a police officer, he wasn't anybody of authority that could do that. He said he was going to take that into his own right to protect other people's property from being burned down or being rioted. So he was harassed at that point because he took on that role. Bring a gun, 18, 17-year-old, bring a gun, said he's going to protect somebody else's property. And then, of course, in our society says, well, that's where the anger hits. That's why this is a very complex case. Like, this is a super complex case, actually. And I can see it from both points of view, right? From both points of view, it's a very complex case. It's a lot more complex than it seems.
And then Travis. So Travis is joining us here from Russia. Travis, what are your thoughts about the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict and the case in itself?
Well, all I know is it's extremely safe here, and I feel safer here than I do in any American city. Absolutely. The police here are the security here is much different than the United States. There's not a fear that you're going to be shot. At one point, I was planning on coming back actually to the United States, and my biggest fear was because I didn't have much money, I would be homeless and be shot by some 17-year-old vigilante. Mm-hmm. Secondly, there's a beautiful quote from Robert McKechnie, which is the rise and fall of professional journalism, is that the media do not necessarily tell you what to think, but they tell you what to think about and how to think about it. And so the United States just recently got out of Afghanistan in that the empire of graveyards. And so immediately the United States media focuses on domestic issues and Afghanistan is forgotten. Now, how does that relate to this case of this 17-year-old shooting several people? Basically, the gun lobby is, the NRA is just basically a product placement tool for the gun lobby. And so what's happening here is that there's this huge debate about gun rights and et cetera, and basically it's all about the sale of weapons, not only domestically but foreign. And anybody that supports gun rights, I would strongly suggest watching the movie. It's a little known movie, of course. It was recently came out, I think in 2016. It's called Miss Sloan. And it's about one lawyer, such as myself, who basically is able to subvert the National Rifle Association, which is the largest lobbying association in the entire United States, by themselves through guerrilla marketing. So the case, it's kind of irrelevant. The thing is that the United States is imploding, and this is just one other example of the United States just slowly imploding on itself.
So Wade, I know you want to say something. Go ahead and hold off. I want to keep talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict first, and then I'm going to let you.
I'm getting a bigger bottle of notes,
and I'm going to let you respond to that. So with the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, I'm going to say this. This was our generation's O.J. Simpson. And it really was divided amongst race, and it really was divided amongst political party, like everything is at the moment. I'll say this. Many people feel as though when it comes to the law, there are two separate laws for people who are minorities and for people who are white. And this was definitely one of those cases that if we would have taken a black person who did the same exact thing, I'll use myself for an example. If I went as a teenager to another state with a gun that I was not legally supposed to have, and let's say that the Proud Boys were protesting and I had killed two Proud Boys and injured another, there would be no way that I would have left the scene. I could have went to any cop and told them that I shot someone, and I would be in the back of a squad car, if not dead. The case, I wouldn't have won the case. And even if there was a technicality throwing the gun out, they would still find a way to put it back in. We are seeing that people are sick and tired and fed up of situations like this happening again and again and again. And that's just talking about the situation. But I do want to go back to the case. I do think that one of the biggest issues with the case was the judge and was the prosecutor. I think from the moment that this case began, there was no way that Kyle was going to be found guilty. There was no way that the jury that was selected, there was no way that the prosecutor that was running the case was going to be able to make his case. There's no way that the judge was going to allow any real evidence that would have condemned Kyle Rittenhouse into the courthouse. So I do think this was a miscarriage of justice. I do believe that I do believe in Americans' right to use self-defense. I will never tell Americans that they cannot defend themselves. But I do not believe this was a situation where people were defending themselves. And I'm going to tell you this. There are women sitting in prison right now, sitting and rotting in prison because they were defending themselves against their abusive husbands. There are women who were sex trafficked, who were protecting and using self-defense against the men that were trafficking them, that are sitting rotting in jail right now. So yes, I believe that Americans have a right to defend themselves. But in this case, I do not believe it was self-defense. If Kyle Rittenhouse was in his house, if protesters were outside of his house and they broke his window, he would have a right to defend himself. But Kyle purposely took a weapon that he should not have had. He went to a city, he went to a state that was not his own, placed himself in a position in front of a business that was not his own, and he put himself there. This was not an act of defense. To me, essentially, Kyle went hunting and he found something to hunt. And he's just very lucky that in the city that he was in, he was able to find people sympathetic to his cause. And I'm just going to leave with that and see what Wade has to say about this. I see you typing away, Wade.
Oh, I'm not typing, I'm writing. If I'm right, if it goes in the book, it's on like Donkey Kong. So all right. So let's break this down just a little bit, okay? So we have Kyle Rittenhouse. How far did he live from where he was?
I don't care, across state lines.
Okay, hold on. 21 minutes, less than 20 miles. Gage Grossaharazitz, I can't pronounce his last name. The guy who got shot in the arm, all right? Traveled
That doesn't
3
matter.
hours to go there with a weapon he wasn't allowed to legally have as a felon.
Yes, and you know what? And I'm going to tell you something. If he was arrested, I would be all for it. We're missing the point. If he was arrested, I would have said, yes, this person should have been arrested. I'm not arguing that two wrongs don't make a right.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
No matter what happened.
Who started it caused it. Now, granted, he shouldn't have been there. I'm going to give you that. He shouldn't have been there. Let's go with that.
Do you know what would have caused this not to happen? If Kyle Rittenhouse didn't break the law. If a 17-year-old didn't go across,
break the law.
No, people in this country have a right to protest. People in the United States have a right to protest.
And they have a right to defend themselves.
That is not defending yourself. Like I said, if Kyle Rittenhouse, he was already breaking the law. If Kyle Rittenhouse was in front of his house and he took a gun and shot someone who threw a brick in his house, I would be for Kyle Rittenhouse. That is defending yourself.
You can't use the logic of he was already breaking the law when you have
he was already breaking the law. When he was already breaking the law. No,
breaking the law.
You have a right to protest. In America, you have a right to protest.
You have a right to protest. You don't have a right to destroy somebody else's property or their body.
It doesn't matter, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't support the Proud Boys. If the Proud Boys want to have a nationwide protest, I will support the Proud Boys having a nationwide protest, because that is one of our God-given rights. That is our God-given right here in the United States. It is our constitutional right to be able to protest. And I don't care what you are protesting. I don't care what you are protesting. You have the right. Now, I may not agree with what you're protesting. I will go back and forth. I will debate you about what you're protesting, but you have a right to protest. People have a right to take to the streets.
You're
And if you want to
tap
argue
dancing,
about, and if you want to argue
You're
about
tap dancing.
property versus human life, I'm going to say life all the way. Kyle
You're
Rittenhouse
tap dancing,
was a
Mel.
bit.
You're
Kyle
doing circles.
Rittenhouse. I'm not going in circles. You have
are
a right
going
to
in circles.
protest.
You
have a right to
putting down that
protest.
People have the right to protest. You're
Yes,
right.
Kyle
People
wasn't
have a right to
protesting.
protest.
Kyle
They
shouldn't have
do
been
not
there.
have the right to
We
attack someone whether
don't
they're
need
there or not,
vigilantes
frankly.
in this country. We don't need vigilantes in the point blank.
He
End of
wasn't
story.
a vigilante.
Yes, he was.
By the protesters.
He decided to come in with a gun and
Let
be
me
a
ask you a question.
vigilante.
If he wasn't attacked by the protesters,
I don't think they should.
Happen?
No, I don't think he should have been there. Something
It
was
doesn't
going to go
matter.
wrong.
I don't think they should have been there.
I do, because they were protesting. Americans have the right to protest. Americans don't have the right to be vigilantes. We're seeing this time and time and again.
It's not a vigilante when you're self-defense, when you're attacked first.
It's not self-defense. You are put yourself in that situation when you decide to be a vigilante. We're seeing that right-wing, conservative, white people want to be vigilantes. They want to step into a power that they don't have. We saw it when a young boy was gunned down for carrying Skittles. We're seeing it now with the Aubrey case. This is something that's happening time and time again, where people who are not law enforcement are stepping up and using vigilante violence to kill people.
I think you're way off subject here.
I don't think I'm way off subject. I'm telling you that in the United States, we're seeing. I'm not. I think it's a trend. I think it is a trend.
It's a trend of
where
people.
White guys with guns think that they are the law when they're not the law, and they're causing people to lose their life.
You're quoting him to a vigilante, but he wasn't a vigilante until
he was a vigilante. Why did he go there? Wade?
He went there to defend people's property.
No.
Okay.
He went there to
wait a minute.
Who's supposed to defend people's property? Who is there? Who do our tax dollars go to?
Hold on.
Who do our tax dollars go to?
You keep trying to.
The National Guard could be. No, I'm not.
You're doing
citizens.
Circles.
I'm not.
Focus
Citizens should not. No. I'm focusing here.
Focus
citizens,
on Kyle.
Wait, listen to me. Wait, listen to me. The only people who should be there with guns protecting property: National Guard, police.
I agree.
Those are the only people. Kyle should not have been there. The National Guard should have been protecting property, and the police should have been protecting property.
Now listen to me, Mel, instead of trying to talk over me. Listen to me.
How am I talking over you? I'm trying to make a point.
Because you won't be quiet for 2 seconds. All right, now listen to me. It's regardless of why he was there.
Yeah.
Okay? The moment he was attacked by somebody else, he had a right to defend himself.
No, the moment that he decided
to be a vigilante. So you're saying because he was there illegally, that if he was attacked, he did not have the right to defend himself? He should have took the beating from the skateboard, the rocks, and everybody else.
I'm going to say that. He should have left.
That is so wrong.
It's not wrong. It is not wrong because
that logic can be applied to anybody else that was there at that riot. If I lived there and they came from out of town, I should be able to kick their ass and beat the hell out of them, and they should not be allowed to defend themselves.
We should allow police and the National Guard to do their job, and I think white men with guns should realize that they are not the law.
Let me help you with that, Mel. Men with guns, not white men with guns.
No. I'm being very specific with what I'm saying. We're seeing this.
It's not about
a bigger bottle tonight.
It's not about race. It's about class, which the United States is oblivious about. It's completely about class. The thing is that I grew up poor in the United States, and I was treated exactly the same as a black person would be by the police. And so this whole race division thing is just it's there is racism in the United States, absolutely, but it's a thing of class, and that's the entire issue here. Is it's not because he's black necessarily, it's because he's poor, and that's the issue. And that's the thing, is that it is everybody talks about it's this big division in the United States, and just Americans are so fixated on race when it's all comes down to class.
So,
I see another issue.
Let's get
Sean.
There's
another issue with this, I think. I think the prosecution overdid their hand on this, actually, because what they had was a 17 or 18-year-old, and they went for 5 charges that were very hard charges. I mean, they were life charges. So it was a life and death kind of thing that they had to choose for this young 17-year-old, let's say, very sweet-looking kid, okay, that they had to go for the most extreme or let him go. So the people that represented him, they did the smart thing. They asked for they said, go for the very extreme, go for the absolute extreme, because we have the best chance if they do that. And that's where they made the mistake. He is guilty of showing up the way he showed up. He is guilty of that, actually. Mm-hmm. He's guilty of not having the proper way of doing what he did. And if they went for not as extreme charges, he would have lost the case. I believe, honestly, he would have lost the case.
If they would have went for charges for having the gun illegally and traveling across state lines, he would have lost. Exactly.
I actually completely agree. But I think we all agree on that.
No matter where you are in the U.S., no matter where you go, you have a right to defend yourself.
So,
and saying that someone doesn't because they traveled somewhere is literally the definition of bullshit.
So here's my issue. Here's my issue, and this is what I'm seeing in the United States is that, and I'm going to use race because we're not seeing black vigilantes. We're seeing white men with guns who are taking the law into their hand. Now stepping away from the verdict. No. I'm gonna be fine. Wait, let me speak.
Okay.
We're seeing this pattern of white men with guns. Now, I'm not saying that black people don't want to be vigilantes either, but they're not allowed to be, because if a black person tries to be a vigilante with a gun, the cops are going to come for them. So this is why I'm saying white men with guns being vigilantes, because they're allowed to. I do think that we have an issue with white men with guns trying to take the law into their own hand. And that's essentially what Kyle did. By taking the gun, by going to Wisconsin, by being in that position, he was being a vigilante. He was trying to take the law into his own hands. We're seeing this time and time again. So I think the biggest issue with this whole case is that white men, again, I'm using race because even if black people want to be vigilantes, they wouldn't get that far. The difference is that white men can, black man can't. So that's where the race thing comes in, right? Because the black man would be stopped before he was able to be a vigilante.
Realize Kyle is Latino, right? I just want to make sure we understand that.
You can be white. You do know that you can be white Latino, right?
Not according to this world nowadays. You can't.
No, you can. White Latino is a thing.
Yeah, Ray, that's kind of on the ridiculous.
You could be Afro Latino, or you can be white Latino. Like that is literally a thing.
You realize though he's Latino.
No.
Make sure we understand
I
that.
don't.
I think that has no bearing on the fact. If you look at him, you would not think he was an indigenous person of any kind. No.
I'm just saying.
None.
So I do think we're gonna go to comments.
Yeah.
Let's
take a break.
I'm putting out there. I don't. What I'm saying, white. You could be white Latino.
Okay.
Point blank.
We will agree.
So he was.
To
let me finish. Wait. Let me finish. We can agree to disagree, but let me finish, because we're seeing the same thing with that major case in Georgia, where they saw the kid jogging, and they killed him. I think that is the bigger issue. Aside from the verdict, now I'm going to say something which a lot of people are going to be mad with me. The way that the case played out, the verdict was correct. With the way the case played out. What Sean said was correct. They went after the wrong charges. With the rules that the judge put in place for the trial, with the way that the prosecution presented the case, there was no other way for this to go.
But Miss Andre,
with the way that it played out, there's no other way for this to go. Now, if it was tried differently, he's guilty. End of the day, Kyle is guilty. But if you look at just this trial and not the other facts, not of the other things that you could have charged him with, this was the only verdict. Again, it's heartbreaking. I think it's wrong. I do think he is guilty. But if you look at the trial, if you look at the way that the evidence was presented, if you look at the charges against him, this was the verdict. However, I do think that we have a problem with white vigilantes, white men with guns thinking they're the law across the country. Now you guys can go ahead and hate on me. Go ahead.
I
Oh, I
just
don't hate on you.
it's not that I'm hating on you or hating on you. So basically there's vigilante like in all of the major urban centers with black on black violence. I mean, it's endemic. I mean, the issue really here is guns. I mean, there's so many guns in the United States because of the gun lobby, and that's the real issue here. And it's going to continue. It's going to only get worse because there was I read recently 30% of all Republicans believe that a violent overthrow is okay in the United States right now, and there's so many Russians right now in the United States. There's 3.1 million Russians, and the human intelligence that the KGB, the former KGB, had, and then also currently today the FSB is the best in the world. And what happened in 2016 with Trump is going to only repeat itself, and the United States is falling apart at the seams, and it truly is, and it's only going to get worse. And all of the international things that are happening, which you folks are not focusing on because the media doesn't tell you what to think, but it tells you what to think about. All these things are coming home. The blowback is coming, and the chickens are coming home to roost, to quote Malcolm X. So it's only, I mean, this is only going to get worse. January 6th was just a precursor. It's a swan song of the United States. And you're right. I think you're really right, Mel. It truly is. It could be the O.J. Simpson case of at least this decade, but there's going to be more. There's going to be more cases just like this.
So
Right,
I
so-
just want to make sure I understand correctly both Mel and Travis, and I'm going to put some words in your mouth just to clarify here for a second. All right, you both are saying that violent conflicts are acceptable, and protecting yourself or others, whether you're there illegally or incorrectly or whatever, is not acceptable. Is that the point both of you were making?
I don't think I made that point, Wade.
I think you did, because you flat out said when I asked you, should Kyle have been allowed to defend himself, or should he just took the ass wheeling and been killed by the three felons that were there? You said yes, you should have.
I don't think he should have been there.
But because of that, you think he should have been like, okay, I can't defend myself.
No, so at the end of the day, he put himself in a lose-lose situation.
So because he put him there, he shouldn't have defended himself. He should have took whatever came to him.
What I'm saying is he put himself in a lose-lose situation where he had to, quote-unquote, defend himself. He put himself in a situation where someone was going to lose their life. And he chose not to lose his life. I think he's guilty, but because he put himself in that situation. But let's go to the comments.
Of a certain number of things, but I don't believe it's because he defended himself. I think it's because he went somewhere he wasn't supposed to. He had something he wasn't supposed to. But regardless of that, you shouldn't have the right to defend yourself, regardless of who you are. And Travis, I can't believe as an expat that you don't believe in defending yourself.
So we're gonna move on because we have two other topics. Let's go to the comments. Before Sean Sean, go ahead and read the comments. Wade, after Sean reads the comments, we'll go to the
first comment. Okay. It's really a loss. There is no win to it, so there is no consequence. If his skin was dark, it would totally be different. Oh my God, Wade's face, and then Mel's laugh out loud. It was no surprise when the Rittenhouse verdict, just the way the judge started the trial, we all knew where it was going. Sad, causing even more division in our country. 100% Mel. That's a point for Mel. This trial is proof that the criminal justice system sways in the way of white people. The prosecutor and the judge would have never allowed him to be guilty regardless of the facts before them. There is one law but it is applied differently by race. However, the best way to overcome the gap is to level up the treatment of blacks. Don't level down the treatment of whites. Drag equality up. not down.
I would agree with that, Roger.
Yeah, me too.
Kyle had no business being there. He and his mama need to be held accountable like anyone else would have been. I got my popcorn for tonight. The fact that we put people in jail, they do their time, and yet still we have to vilify by people for being a felon. It's absurd. He has just as much the right not to be murdered as anyone else. I don't give a flying beep if the person flew 1,000 miles. Rittenhouse was wrong, whether he was black, white, brown, red, pink. He was in the wrong. Hi, Sean. Hello. It's a lot of comments. Okay, a right to defend himself and a right to murder are not the same thing. Kicking asses and killing are different. White men are obsessed with vigilante syndrome because they know they have the ability to get away with gun violence. I agree with Sean. Hey, I got a point for myself there, reading it out. Okay, white privilege, period. Sad but true. Kyle's Latino, but he still checks the white box.
I love that. That's
okay. So funny how we are bringing up that he is Latino. Okay, I just want to bring in a different aspect, not race age, I think she means age, not race related. It's an ease of gun access to all the races that are underage to begin with. Point to Travis for bringing up the same thing I just did. It will always be race related, whether people want to agree to that or not, because PIPOC do not have the same abilities as white men, even in the ability to stand their ground. They are seen as the aggressor, regardless if they were the plaintiff or the defendant. Travis. It's also a lottery that the incident happened in Wisconsin under their gun laws. Had Rittenhouse done this in another state, he would have been convicted. Roger, 100%.
Roger's not even on the show. He gets a point.
Yeah, where's Roger?
Yeah, we had a lot of comments today, right? Yeah, I think we were heated.
So I think everyone was going while we were arguing back and forth. And then
I don't see Roger in the chat though.
Because there's different pages. We broadcast different sites.
All right.
Do you want to read this? So smoke and bacon comments don't pop up, but I am so hurt by one of these comments. So go ahead and read it because.
Okay. So
we got to move on to the next topic because I need you to read them, Wade.
All right, Las Vegas Luddite. We as a nation, we are losing interest in being held hostage by rioters. A Rittenhouse event was going to happen, either there or somewhere else. It was sad, tragic, and inevitable. Las Vegas Luddite again. She's tap dancing around. I watched damn near all that trial. The footage showed self-defense. She doesn't care about justice, only rhetoric. They have no right to destroy. I'm not going to read that one.
No, read it. Come on. Because I'm hurt. I am hurt by this comment on Las Vegas Luddite. Read it.
Oh, she's a racist. Nice.
All right, we're done. Moving on to the next comment.
All right, but he does bring up a good fact, though. He says, and the NRA was funded to defend the black man's right to bear arms. Fun fact.
All right, so we're moving on.
I do want to bring up one item that completely that could spin people's views on this. All right, so let's talk about Andrew Coffey for a minute, because you say if it was a black man, it would be different. Andrew Coffey was found not guilty of killing a police officer who kicked in his door and shot his girlfriend, regardless of the fact that it was a white police officer, regardless of the fact that it was his home, regardless of the fact it was a black man, as you're so apt to point out, who killed a white man who was found not guilty with self-defense.
And what did I say at the beginning of the broad? Because we're not going to get into this. We have to get to the other topic, Wade.
I'm just saying. You keep saying this.
No. What did I say? What did I say, though? I want you to say what I said. Because I said if Kyle was at his house.
He said in your home, yes. But we also can bring up the statistics of black vigilantism rising. So you can't say it's one without including the other. If we want to use race, or we can just use people in general.
I'm going to keep using race because that's what I'm seeing. That's where my stats are seeing. So, but we're going to move on. We're going to move on. We'll debate this after amongst ourselves.
Yes!
Gas prices are at all-time high across the world and right here in the United States as well. Gas prices are at all-time high. Now, President Biden vowed that he was going to do something to end the high gas prices. Now, we do know with supply and demand during the lockdown, there was no demand for gas. So people stopped producing oil. Essentially, stopped drilling for oil. But now that demand is back on the rise, it looks as though we are unable to keep up with the demand of what people need. Now, President Biden has decided to dip into the reserves in order to go ahead and try to lower the gas prices, but he's not doing it alone. He's also implored other nations across the world to start dipping into their reserves as well. So let's talk about the United States, then we'll move into the other nations first. So, Sean, thoughts on dipping into the reserves?
I was on an interview a long time ago about this, and I said there was no reasons why we couldn't dip into the reserve earlier, and there was really no reason for the rise because we could have dipped into the reserves from the beginning. So it's purely political that it's now being done because we could have done it a lot earlier than this. We have a ton of reserves, by the way. We have the most reserves in the world. So we could have done this earlier, and it wouldn't have been on the back of the average person paying, what they needed to pay. So I think it just hit political point where you had to do it, and that's where we're at. But I think it should have been done earlier.
Wade, because I know you don't agree with this.
Oh, I was just reading a comment that just blew my mind. That literally, I'm just.
We'll get to the comments. We'll get to the comments in a second. But wait, what are your thoughts?
So, here's what I understand about the oil reserves, and I don't know a lot about this, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I understand, our oil reserves were in use at one point. We were low. We were whatever it was at one point. We needed to refill them. Trump bought a bunch of oil when it was low, refilled the oil reserves. We have them. Pandemic hit. Now we have people not producing oil, so oil's going up through the roof, so on and so forth. So now Biden wants to release the oil reserves to try and drop the price again. That's only a temporary stop measure. If the people producing the oil don't begin producing more oil, then if we use our strategic reserves just to lower the price, we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot, in my opinion. The strategics reserves are there for national emergencies. They're there for wartime. They're there for a multitude of things. They are not there just to make somebody's pocketbook happier. So I would have to agree with Sean that it is a pure political move. It's somebody trying to get a feather in his cap.
Man, Travis left right when I was going to start asking him about. There, I think he's back.
There he is. Travis can't leave. We didn't even have to have a discussion online first because I got some questions.
I tried to run away, Wade, but you just pull me back in.
Oh, I'm going to pull you back in because I got some serious questions I need answered.
All right, guys. So let's stay on topic first. At the end, we'll discuss that. So Travis, so in terms of the U.S. using its oil reserves, something that many people who know about this saw coming, but people who don't know about this didn't see coming, is that OPEC, or essentially the group of nations that have this coalition that essentially determines what happens with oil, says that they're going to retaliate. Now, Russia is one of the main nations and one of the leaders of OPEC. So you being in Russia, I do want to know what your thoughts are about the U.S. dipping into their oil reserves, and then OPEC stating that they're going to stop producing the 400,000 barrels of oil because of this as retaliation if the United States does go through with this. So, Travis.
Well, this is just an ongoing soap opera that I've seen my entire life. You remember, of course. Well, I barely remember Carter and all the problems that he had with OPEC, and that was part of the reason that he lost the election. And this is going to be part of the reason that that Biden lost the election. Is this and other problems, especially in 2022, they're going to be trumped completely. The Democrats are going to be trumped. But in regards to the reserves, this is and being an ongoing soap opera. This actually happened last year. I watched with it was incredible to see like how Russia just flexed its muscle and was fighting with Saudi Arabia, and it refused to do the same thing again. And I was wondering how long it would go on, but there was eventually a deal, and so it's an ongoing problem, and again, it's going to just get worse.
So, Sean, do you think that this is going to be a temporary fix, or do you think this is something that's going to help the nation long term?
I think all nations know that they have to go towards green technology. They all know they're totally dependent on oil and they're totally dependent on fossil fuels. And all the nations of the world know that. China, I think China has a lot to play in this. I think they're heavily manipulating the market, just as they were going to manipulate the financial markets as well, monetary markets through digital currency. But China has a greater power play on this than Russia by far. But I mean, they're the largest importers of the world of oil. I mean, if you go to other countries just near to us, for Canada or Mexico, for example, Mexico actually is also a very heavy producer. It has its own oil source. Pemex is one of the richest companies in the world. And Canada itself has a very large oil aspect. Both of those are not seeing that, but for some reason, the border changes the philosophy of price of gas. I don't know. It's 5 miles from each side, I guess, but all at once the illusion breaks down in the other countries. So we know that's an illusion that's been made up. Those who travel internationally know that some of these things are made up based on economic reasons, and they're also made on political reasons. So, those who travel internationally, are going to agree with me. Those who live in the United States are going to blame the current administration. Just like when Trump was in office, they would blame him for everything in the world that went wrong. They're going to blame Biden for everything in the world that went wrong. Here doesn't mean that they could have done this or created this. I don't think Biden created any of the situation that happened, that made this happen. I don't think that happened. No more than I would think, some of the things that happened under Trump's watch is something that he made happen. But they all set the tone, their voices, their symbols, so they set the tone for that. But I think right now China's manipulating the actual crude oil market.
Do you want to respond?
So,
Wait, I saw you. Go ahead.
Oh, so the whole thing with climate change is, first of all, whenever I bring this up, people think that I don't think it's real. It absolutely 100% is real. But I find it really interesting that since 2015, China actually became the next superpower when it actually the purchase power parity it increased above the United States, and it's going to be the Chinese century. And so the thing is the whole issue with climate change, it's basically a way to rein in China. And the United States has got to keep in mind, we created the current China and we created the current Russia. Russia today is actually a libertarian paradise. And China is a capitalist country with a socialist name. And so basically, we now, when I say we, I mean Americans, we now are trying to rein in this capitalist juggernaut that we created. And we do that through climate change, through bad PR. And so this whole idea that it's all China's fault is, well, first of all, we created China, we created Russia, the current forms of China and Russia. And so, and again, it's blowback.
So I'm going to read the statement that President Trump released. I do want to say that, going back to Sean's earlier comments, we tried and blamed the current administration for a lot of things. We blamed Trump for a lot of things that wasn't Trump's fault. We were blaming Biden for a lot of things that weren't Biden's fault. Again, gas prices don't necessarily come down to the commander in chief. It really doesn't. They don't set the prices. They can do things to try and manipulate it the best that they can, like Biden is trying to do now. But again, that's only temporary fix. Again, the American presidents don't really control the gas price unless they decide to bomb the nations that have gas. So let me read President Trump's statement today. So President Trump made this statement in regards to what Biden's doing. He said, "We were energy independent 1 year ago. Now we're at the mercy of OPEC. Gasoline is selling for $7 in parts of California, going up all over the country, and they're taking oil from our strategic reserves. Is this any way to run a country?" So I'll leave it. Does anyone want to respond to Trump's statements?
I think I'll let him go, but I think it's smart politics. I don't think there's anything factual about it, but I think it's smart politics.
I agree. There's no facts to it. I do think that Trump did buy up oil, but again, when it comes to gas prices, the presidents really don't determine the gas prices. Again, they can manipulate it for small amounts of time, unless they decide to bomb the nations with oil. Bush. Besides that, I don't think the presidents don't really have much to do with the gas prices. Now, Wade, I think you wanted to respond to Travis. I did see you making faces when Travis was speaking, so go ahead and then we'll go to the comments.
So, no, well, I'm curious as to how one of the leaders, even though it is mostly political and mostly all show, so one of the leaders of the free world does not have the ability to influence certain groups across the world. And when I say that, I don't mean by like slipping them $100 bill behind the corner saying, "Hey, hook me up with, the lottery numbers." What I'm saying is that he has some heft behind him, no matter who the president of a country is. They have the entire country behind them. So how can they not tell OPEC, you need to get your heads out of your asses and do what you're supposed to do?
Well, he did. Biden did do that. Biden, back in July, went to OPEC and said, "Listen, you got to start producing more oil." And then OPEC agreed to 400,000 barrels starting a day, 400,000 barrels a day starting in August. And we just realized that it wasn't enough. Now, there's two schools of thoughts here. There are many experts that are saying that OPEC is just being greedy and they're trying to make money off the back of the Western world, while other people are saying that they just don't have the ability to do more than that at the moment. So because of that, that is why Biden is stepping in and saying, "This is the next plan. We try to work with OPEC. They're not giving us the oil that we need, so we're going to tap into our reserves." So
because I see Trump's statement as a business negotiation statement, just like any other business.
Mm-hmm. But the country's not ran like a business, and you can never run a democracy like a business, because
I'm just saying that's how I see his statement. It would be coming from a business aspect. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting what I need. Let's go negotiate it.
So the thing is with Trump and they're both war criminals, both Biden and Trump. So let's just put that.
Hey, comrade, just go ahead and calm down there. All right.
All right. So with Trump,
topic.
His business dealings were with Saudi Arabia, and he basically that was one of the first things that he did, is that he went to Saudi Arabia and he basically expanded the Yemenis war, where Saudi Arabia is using American planes with American bombs, with American training and American intelligence to bomb the hell out of Yemenis. Now, Mel talks so much about race. Where's the big outcry about the Arabs in Yemen? That's the thing, is that you folks are so focused on race as long as the person has an American in their name, as long African American, Mexican American, etc. So the thing is that Trump, he basically went in and he said, "Okay, look, we have a business agreement, and you guys can do what you want. You can go ahead and you can destroy the Houthi rebels, and you can kill 80,000 children." The New York Times last year said that 80,000 children are dying because of the Saudi Arabia, which is a puppet proxy state of the United States government. Okay. And the thing is that there's no focus on that. And Biden refuses to talk to Saudi Arabia because of one journalist being killed, one Washington Post journalist being killed by the same Saudi Arabia government. And so that's part of the reason is that he won't negotiate like Trump. Okay, but the thing is that foreign policy is always the same. We have no control over it. And the consistency with Trump and Biden is always the same. Pretty much everything that Trump did, Biden is continuing to do, and because the foreign policy is the same. It's a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same. They're still bombing in Yemen. A lot of brown people are dying, Mel, and nobody's talking about it. So that's the real issue.
I'm sorry. Are you equating terrorists with brown people?
That's not what he said. That's not what he said.
Because if we're bombing in Yemen,
there is a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to unpack.
80,000 babies. I don't think they're terrorists.
There's a lot to unpack.
I don't think those 80,000 babies are terrorists. So
we're gonna unpack this. Do I think there's a racial issue in the United States? Yes, I do. Do I think the United States has a lot of issues with black versus white? Yes, I do. Do I think that a lot of times Americans, not all Americans, but Americans do view brown people as less than? Yes, I do. I do think that many Western people do have an issue with race. I think a lot of it is unconscious bias. So I don't always bring race into it. But do I think that? Yes, I do. But again, unconscious bias just because of the way that the world is formed and the way that the United States ingests information that they now view brown people as the enemy. I do think that is an issue. Do I think both Biden and Trump are war criminals? I would not go that far. Do I think they've made horrific choices? Yes. I'm trying to see what else Travis hit me with. Well, what am I missing, guys? What do I need to? That was a burn towards me.
That was a
burn towards me. Do I think we all have unconscious biases, right? Black, brown, white, whatever. Right now, the only reason why I bring it up in those cases is because white people are in a position of power over black people. I'll get to that when we get to Amanda's comment. Do I think the United States causes a lot of trouble in the Middle East? Yes. Do I think that we destabilize the Middle East? Yes. Do I think a lot of the conflict comes from the United States in the Middle East? Yes. But if we're going back to the topic at hand, and with the oil.
Okay, the Middle East thing. I want to talk about the Middle East thing. Okay. I want to talk about that. Okay.
Is Sean gonna burn me too?
I'm gonna set a fire on this one. Okay. I'm gonna set a fire on this one because you never confuse the people of the Middle East with the governments of the Middle East.
Yes.
You're confusing the two. Just like you're confusing the government of Saudi Arabia with the people of Saudi Arabia. Okay, those are two different things. Two entirely different things. Just like what other people view, like the Russian view of the U.S. people compared to their government. We're not our government. We are our people, right? So we live with our government. We may not even like our government. And that doesn't mean we represent our government. Okay. So in the Middle East, for example, as you travel through the Middle East, because I've done a lot of travel in the Middle East, there's some wonderful people in the Middle East. Beautiful culture, great history, amazing food, rich culture, rich language.
Go that far. The food was.
Well, you've never been to
Let Sean talk, Wade.
You've never been to Morocco, my friend, because the food in Morocco is off the hook good. Okay, so okay, I digress. That's North Africa, so maybe we won't call it that. Okay, so but anyway, what I'm trying to say is we've always had a hand in changing, and other entities, foreign powers, have had a change of hand of the people running those countries. Okay, so we were totally in favor of the people running Iraq at one time, and we were completely supporting those before we went to war with them. That's also true in a lot of the other Latin American countries and a lot of the other Middle Eastern countries. So we had relationships directly with the governments, but that doesn't mean we had relationships with the people. So, and that's called foreign policy, right? Foreign policy usually in itself is related to economic policy. And economic policy usually is related to what is the most powerful economic thing we can get from each other in this negotiation, which is what Trump said. He's a business guy. Trump said we should have took all the oil, by the way. He said that in do I think that's ethical? Well, no, I do not think that's ethical.
Smelly. We look. Wait.
Hey, guys.
We lost our referee.
When the cat's away. Okay, let's go.
What?
When the cat's away, the mice will play. So
There she is. You keep coming back and forth. You okay?
So I went off on my rant. Okay, I'm just saying I'm done with my rant. But I went off my rant.
Keep ranting. I want to.
My rant is at the core of what you're talking about in the Middle East, right? So this is at the core of what's going on, and curiously in our country, but also around the world, in the sense that these Middle East countries they hold huge economic power over the aspect of energy. Huge power.
You were right the first time, Sean.
You were right there, right? So they control global energy, right? They're controllers of global energy, but their governments their people are just trying to get rewarded from living in that. It wasn't their fault they were born into it. It's like saying it's not their fault they were born one place or another, right? Mm-hmm. So right. Yeah, so I mean, we're all a human race, and we all need to treat each other humanly. I mean, I can agree with Travis one thing. I know, but also I'll put it back on what I'm saying. I don't think the media in Russia is any more equal or any more right or correct to its people than the media in the U.S. I'd say they're equally they equally have problems telling people the actual truth. Yeah,
the role of the media is basically it's the manipulation basically of the people. It's first of all it's propaganda, and then second of all soft power. So internationally, so that's true of any country,
including the country you're in.
Noam Chomsky, manufacturing consent. So
yeah. I mean, the Polish, all the EU, by the way, I'm going to go off a little bit on Travis. If all this, what we were saying, all the EU would not have organized, concerned about Russia invading the EU, if they would have done that. And Poland wouldn't have joined the EU if it wasn't concerned about being invaded by Russia over and over again. So
it's not, the Russia's not trying to invade anybody. It's ridiculous.
Russia invaded Poland multiple times.
But not since the fall of the Soviet Union. So,
have you gotten like a drunk in public in Russia or something? I just want to know if you've spent any time in lockup, because that would explain the brainwashing. But let's be honest here for a second, Travis. All right, so because I really want to get into this, and I can see Mel's face. Absolutely. But all right. I'm going to give you an opportunity to explain why you're in Russia to the audience.
Right now?
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Okay. Let's
so
we're gonna let's end the topic first, so we know that we're So does anyone have anything else to say about OPEC or oil or anything like that? Because what I want to do is I want to get to the comments so we stay on topic, and then we won't have time for our last topic. We will talk about why Travis is in Russia instead. So, Wade, can you read all the comments plus the smoke and bacon comments? We're not going to respond to the comments.
Okay.
Everyone, because if you guys want to do this Travis thing, we're not going to respond to the comments.
Okay.
So let's.
Okay. No. Okay. I went off on my rant. I apologize.
So Amanda says, "Laugh out loud. Black people can't be racist." Oh my God, Luddite, no. LOL. Wow, Mel racist? That is funny. Now you know for a fact this person knows nothing about Mel. Amanda, yes, they can. Leadership from Biden, I totally agreed with the president. We lost Travis. No, he's not. He's right there.
No, we lost him for a second.
Well, at this point, it's needed. It's all political. Travis, I apologize now ahead of time. The U.S. has 34 days of reserve fuel. Using reserves without dealing with the problem doesn't solve the problem, and now you got less reserves. Thank you. People don't understand that there are huge disagreements between the OPEC group. It is a strategic error for the U.S. not to be self-sufficient under a North American grouping. We have too many tree huggers. Whatever happened to the oil drilling in the Dakotas and Odessa, Texas? By the way, Welcome to what the rest of the world pays for fuel. In Australia, the average cost in the U.S. In Australia, the average cost in U.S. dollars is $4.97 per gallon. Like I said before, damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Laughing out loud. Smacking her forehead. That's a normal event with my wife. That was a good one, Wade, at Travis.
Point for Wade.
Comrade. They want us to focus on race. That's how they keep us divided. That's what I always want to know, what's really going on in the world, because American media dictates the info. We're fed like cattle to a trough. They do. Comrade, only Wade. Yes, 100% agree with Sean.
Point for Sean.
Sean, you're so smart. So that's what we're doing tonight, huh? You're sleeping on the couch. Hey, Travis, Russia is hardly a clean skin in the Middle East. Oh, my God, Mel's face. Do I sense a little Maury Povich? You are not the father. I appreciate Travis's views.
Point for Travis.
Thanks,
Bite me, husband.
Point for everyone but Wade for that one. Do you want to read the smoke? So the smoke and bacon comments don't pop up here. A lot of the comments on other where we broadcast don't pop up. But go ahead and read those smoke and bacon. And then Nirvana.
Las Vegas Luddite says, put the Keystone back in operation. Easy. Sonny Boy says, not a fix in any way. This is a power ploy. Las Vegas says, I'm enjoying these live streams. And Las Vegas says, libertarian paradise.
So, Nirvana, can you change the banner to say why American Travis is in Russia, or just change it so people know what we're talking about? I don't care. Find something to put up. Wade, ask your question. Travis, answer. And
Comrade Travis. Comrade Travis.
Comrade Travis.
I am not saying that.
I'm going to give you an opportunity here,
if you
Travis.
can't laugh at yourself, you know.
Yeah. So explain to us why you are an American lawyer living in Russia for the last 6 years.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say one sentence, all right? Russian politicians Zhana Subach and Alexander Gordon, your video is criminal defamation, and I demand that you remove the video immediately. Thank you. So
there's an agenda there.
I can't even pronounce most of those words, let alone anybody understanding what you were trying to.
Yeah, and I've been in the former Soviet Union off and on for 21 years, and I can't either. So
all right. So why are you in Russia?
Because internationally, the United States is the most violent country in the world, and I'm here to help the Russian government subvert the United States.
Are you saying you're an agent? You're an agent?
Please be very careful with the language we use on this show.
Yeah.
We're all already on the KGB list just by him being here.
Please.
Or I'm sorry, the FSB. They already got our phones tapped, all right?
Yes, we all know that. However, can we please be very careful with the language that we use tonight?
Use your big brother wisely. So
yes. Okay, so you are purposely in Russia to help subvert the United States. And you said before the show started that you were attempting for the last 6 years to join a Russian think tank to accomplish this. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what does this think tank do in Russia?
It depends on the think tank. There's several. So I could send you my web link. So yeah,
I'm good.
So here's my question for you, Travis.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you were to accomplish your goal, what would that ultimately look like?
So since 1945, the threat of atomic bombs, this is the thing, is that useful idiots in the peace movement, they don't see that atomic bombs actually have made the world more peaceful. Useful idiots is a term by Lendon, by the way. And so what happened is that since 1945, it's all been about manipulation. It's all been about manufacturing consent and basically controlling populations because we can't go to war anymore. And so the thing is that my goal is basically peace. And the end goal is basically subverting the United States so that
But what does that look like?
That basically means so the way that it can be done, and it's on my webpage, moscowamerican.com, is that basically there's several different ways to do it, but the number one way is basically abolishing copyright, whether it be in North Korea. I've been to the North Korean embassy several times. To the Iranian embassy, I've been there twice, and the Chinese embassy. And basically, this is just one example. Copyright consists of, and intellectual property consists of approximately 34 to 35% of the American economy. If there's several different ways to subvert the United States government, and why do I do that? Because again, internationally, the United States is by far the most violent country in the world, and I could give you a million statistics, and you can't argue with statistics.
I don't need any statistics though. Thank you. I do have a few questions for you though.
Absolutely.
Did you give up your American citizenship?
Do you want to see my passport?
No, I'm just asking you. Did you give up your American citizenship, or are you a dual citizen, or are you still an American citizen? You're just living there.
I'm still an American citizen, so yes.
Okay.
And I was told actually never.
Are you allowed back in the country?
Yes.
Okay, so
I have no criminal record.
The definition of the word subvert.
Absolutely.
And I'm not being funny when I say this. I'm asking. Do you understand the definition of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Economically
okay.
subvert.
So for those of us who don't know, to define subvert, it means to undermine the power and authority of an established system or institution. So your goal is to specifically undermine the United States. That is what
Absolutely.
you hope to accomplish. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So because you're a United States citizen and you haven't given up that right, because you want to actively subvert the United States, its authority and everything else, you do realize you can be charged with treason for giving comfort and aid to the enemy, right?
Yeah, and that's the reason why I didn't want to leave in September, and that's the reason why I went through I went through one of the Baltic countries to come right back, and that's the reason why I applied for political asylum in 2016. That's the reason why I applied for refugee status in 2019, and that's the reason why I'm still here. And I argued an appeal that basically the United States government can kill me anywhere. And that's on the books, is that I basically, by, for example, going to the North Korean embassy and giving these ideas to the North Korean embassy, I could be killed anywhere. And the safest place for me is Russia, North Korea, and China right now.
And you truly believe that Russia is a much more freer country and state than the United States of America?
I believe that that Russia is a much less violent country than the United States. 100%.
Okay, so
and then I got one last question.
No. We're done. Wait, we're done. We're done.
We're done. I mean, we're not done because because literally you can be tried with treason.
Yes. Yep. So I just want to make one point. So do we all remember my predictions about Russian bots who are trying to divide the nation and essentially take a playbook and basically collapse the United States, from within by dividing the nation? Just want to remind everyone of the predictions that I made. We're definitely in a time where this is not far-fetched. I'm going to stop this here. The way you can ask all the questions you want off air.
Oh, that's not fun. I want to know, how do I know he's actually in Russia?
Wade, we're all gonna get phone calls.
We're
all anyway. Yeah, so we're done for tonight. I'm not even going to the comments. Thank you guys for commenting. We are done. So guys, this has been the Power Hour. Thank you so much, and I will see every single one of you guys next week. Have a great night, everyone. Nirvana, go to the credits.